Welcome to our porch.
I thought
You had one job to do the intro. Yes, because I say.
All right, start again.
Okay, guys. Welcome to our porch.
Let's chat.
Ew.
I think that's you that's supposed to say it, because if we go
I'll
back
say the
and
whole
forth, it's so cheesy.
Okay, guys. Welcome to our porch. Let's chat.
There we go.
But today we're talking about a question we get asked a lot, and it's how you know someone is the one for you / how do you discern like who God has for you.
Yeah.
And just to start out, I think just full transparency, like this is not a step-by-step guide by any means, like, or the only way that you determine. I think we're just going to try to bring you guys like into that process for us and like the kinds of questions. And the kinds of questions we asked ourselves, because I think there are multiple right and good ways to approach this. I think this is just kind of for us, the way that we approach it with each other and just in relationship in general, like what we asked ourselves. So I'm going to use my phone a little bit because I did write something out about this actually a while ago. I just put it on my Instagram story a minute ago, but I think I kind of processed this question in our engagement season for multiple reasons, because something that we have talked about is just like the meaning of marriage, and something we're still learning, and what it looks like to walk in God's design for marriage, but also what it looks like to walk in a relationship for the purpose and the ultimate goal of honoring Christ and building his kingdom. And so I wrote out this Instagram post a while ago, but I kind of had 3 questions that, at least for me, that I felt were the kind of basis of the way that we processed through it, and the way I processed through making the decision or coming to the conclusion that Marcus was my husband. And I wrote out these 3 questions. It's from my experience. Here are the questions you should be asking yourself. 1, am I more in love with Christ because of my relationship with my significant other? 2, do they push me to the love of Christ or pull me away from it? And 3, does our relationship seek to build the kingdom of God or the kingdom of self-fulfillment? And I think the core of those questions, I know the core of those questions really come back to what does my relationship say about my relationship with Christ? And am I a better daughter of Christ? Am I a better son of Christ? Am I a better follower of Christ? And am I more on fire for the kingdom of God because I'm in my relationship? Or is it otherwise? Like, am I more pulled towards the things of this world? Am I less focused on my goal? Am I less focused on the race that I'm running? Am I really just wrapped up in these feelings, or good or bad, am I wrapped up in this person in a way that does not push me back to my ultimate need? Because my ultimate need is Christ, not Marcus. Just like your ultimate need is Christ, not a relationship. So I think even if you're single and you're watching this, this is just as valuable for you, because as you wait to either be married, or maybe you will never be married, your ultimate purpose and goal in this life is not to be married. It's not to fulfill a desire of marriage. It's ultimately to fulfill the role of running this race to make Christ known. So even in that, I think having to ask myself those questions in Marcus and I's relationship, and this wasn't a one-time thing where I was like, okay, let me ask myself these questions and then kind of forget about it. It was a constant thing of like evaluating our relationship and constantly looking at each other and being like, okay, like, is this what our relationship is reflecting? And are you the person I want to reflect this with? And I don't know, babe. Do you have anything you kind of want to jump in with before I keep going?
I think a part of that is that it, like you're saying, it's not just a one-time decision that, our relationship glorifies the Lord. Obviously, you're trying, or you're working all the time to work that out, to look more like the Lord together. And even once you're married, like that's our goal. So that's what we're in process of doing all the time. But especially before marriage, especially before you make that commitment, it can seem really daunting to make the decision. Like, all right, if this is a one-time, lifetime decision, am I going to mess it up? Am I going to make the wrong decision? And I think what that turns into is Lord, make this super, super clear, or, because I don't want to mess this up. And for me, like when we were asking those questions, and when we were, in that period before marriage, or even in dating, when you're kind of deciding whether or not you're going to move forward with it or not, you have to decide, and you have to come to some sort of conclusion, because you don't want to just be stuck in, well, I think, or maybe, you want a very solid answer. Yeah. And for me, it was not at one time like, yes, Taylor is the one for me forever. Yeah. It was working out and talking to the Lord and using the wisdom and discernment that he provides, that it didn't have to be a one-time sign, that it was just like, oh, like everything aligned and it was so clear who my wife was supposed to be. That's super romantic and amazing, but that's probably not going to
really
be the
reality.
Case, because you have to make a legitimate decision that's not based off of your feelings or off of romance. But what those questions help is discerning what the Lord would have for you, because yes, you want your decision to be informed by the Lord, but a lot of what he's asking of you in that is to step in faith and take action and to make a decision using wisdom. And I think those questions specifically that we asked, and that we were probably able to verbalize better after the fact, honestly.
For sure.
Were really helpful in, using wisdom to discern the right answer.
Yeah. For sure.
Over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, going back to the kind of, even what you were saying about, we want to kind of boil it down to and have this specific moment of like, yes, or like this overwhelming sense of feeling of like, this person is the one for me. Right. But this is something I would even challenge, like in us as believers. I think that it's obviously it's a beautiful thing, like Christ created love. And I do think that the Lord before time knew who you were going to marry, if you are going to marry. Like he knew that you were going to marry that person. But there is this unique challenge of, I actually do think that we would work with other people, which sounds like a very strange thing to say. And I think that can be, I've seen that cause hesitation for others, myself, and kind of like a daunting thing of like, okay, because the reality is there's going to be other people. There are other people and other men in this world who love the Lord and want to pursue Christ. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so for you, as you're kind of praying through the like, okay, do I feel settled in this relationship, not just because my relationship honors the Lord? Okay, you can be in a God-honoring relationship and actually that person might not be who the Lord has for you. Yeah. And that's very real. So don't hear from us that if you're in a relationship and you're honoring the Lord and he's honoring the Lord, then that's the person for you, because that's not necessarily the case. And I don't say that in a discouraging way, but just to be fully transparent, for me, there was a season for Marcus and I where I actually looked at Marcus and we looked at each other and I was like, is this what the Lord has for me? Like, are you the person for me personality-wise? Like, are we compatible for the rest of our lives? And that is not a bad question to ask yourselves. Yeah. You don't have to shy away from that because you're fearful of the answer. You're fearful of almost like going against God's will just because that person loves Christ. There is a million people in this world who are going to love Christ and love you, and you need to know that. So I think that there is a difference in also being open to, you might have been in a relationship where it was God honoring and the person did love you and love the Lord, but that's not who God had for you. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. There's not a guilt or a fear that needs to be there. But as Marcus and I asked those questions, the Lord made it clear to us that we were supposed to be together. And just to go into something practical in that confirmation before I lose my place, I think that there is a lot of benefit. I know that there is a lot of benefit when you are plugged into community and you are close to people who know you and love you and have your best intention at heart, who want to encourage you in your relationship, but ultimately who want to encourage you in what's best for you, there's actually a lot of peace and confirmation that can be in those relationships, because those people can look at you because they know you and say, hey, I see this in your relationship and I don't know if this is the best fit because of this. Or, hey, I see this in your relationship. I see God working in this way and you guys working together in this way. And I can see the Lord having you for each other. And not in a negative way, like the Lord gives us community in some ways to, yes, hold us accountable, but to also give us insight and input in a really positive way that is just like friendship, So I think really pressing into that and leaning into community and pressing into people and mentorship and relationship of people ahead of you also can be a really confirming or not confirming scenario. So
and that doesn't mean like your peers that you're just gossiping with. Oh, this is the guy that I'm dating, or this is the girl that I'm
not gossiping, maybe talking.
No, but that's what I'm saying for me, often it was like, well, I don't want to ask people or like talk to people because it's just like gossiping like with your friends about like who you're dating, but it's more people who are wiser than you, who have your best interests at heart and are not just, wanting drama.
And with that, you have to be known by people to have that input. I would say a temptation for us and in general for relationship is to shy away and to pull away when you're in a relationship instead of into the relationship. Yeah. And kind of not press into people, one, because you're like ashamed, maybe there's some sin going on, or because it's hard for you feel embarrassed to be honest that you're not sure, really any number of reasons. But I would just encourage you that any of those things are merely the devil trying to keep you from one of the most beneficial things for your heart, and that's to be in godly Christian community. And for us, that was so, I cannot even begin to explain to you how pivotal and necessary that was for our relationship, and it changed probably the entire course of our relationship because we were willing to press into uncomfortable things and ask people ahead of us like, hey, what do you think? And honestly,
it was able to help us confirm and make that decision and come to a place of being at peace, getting married and not feeling like, oh, I don't know, or like this, like, are you sure? Obviously, leading up to the wedding, we were still like nervous and anxious a little bit about,
which is so normal. It's a huge commitment, biggest one of your life.
So much peace and so much confidence that came in that season of life of questioning it, of working through like, is this right? Because that's a good thing to work through. It's not something to be taken flippantly, obviously, but also like it doesn't have to be. You don't have to overthink the fact that you're thinking about it. Like, it's good to process through it. It's not a bad thing if you're questioning whether the person that you're dating is or engaged to is the one that you're supposed to marry or be with. That's a good thing, and you should use, especially engagement, at the time to discern that and to seek out that answer. And
that's the time to ask the question. And that's actually something I think my parents did a really great job of with me, like really asking me to ask the question to myself, and to not be afraid of the Lord's answer. Because I think that's also something that you've got to learn to be open-handed with your relationships, friendships, and otherwise. Like, you have to learn to ask the Lord the question and yourself the question of, is this for me? Like, Lord, is this what you have, or is this what I have in my own heart and in my own mind?
And you have to be okay with it being no. Being no.
And sometimes he makes you ask the question purely so you're open to the answer no. Or yes, and I think that's something, it's something we're learning even now with things in life, like having an open-handedness that helps you rightly view the situations in your life, that all things are filtered through the gospel and through what the Lord has for you versus the lens and the kingdom of self, I think this is just the overall probably summation of like, what if you guys were going to take away like one thing from this video, this is what I would want you to get. And I'm going to read this verse before I just kind of make a statement, but this is Ephesians 5:25-30. It says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present to the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. And the reason I'm saying that is because our ultimate reflection in marriage is not a reflection of just ourselves and of our love for each other. It's ultimately a reflection of Christ for his bride,
Right.
and his bride is his people. So when we walk in marriage, we don't just walk in a relationship that is just kind of a covenant of two people who love each other. We walk in covenant with Christ in a reflection of him and his bride, which is us. So marriage says something not just about Marcus and I. It says something about the Lord, and it says something about who he is. And if Christ is seen through our marriage, he is made much of. And if he is not seen through our marriage, then what are we doing? You know? So I think that that is the biggest thing I would ask you guys to take away from this conversation that we continually process together is, what is our marriage saying about Christ? And is what our marriage is like in our marriage, if what we're saying about Christ is something to be desired and to be honored and to be cherished, then it's going to reflect on the gospel in a really positive way. And it's going to make people ask the question, who is Jesus? And so
Right. It should.
it should.
Yeah.
It should. Absolutely. So the last statement I kind of made at this post is, the ultimate question isn't if someone is the one for you. It's if they've pointed you to the only one who can fulfill you.
Thank you for watching, and thank you for
I'm sorry.
Taylor crushed it today, and she's self-conscious that she talked too much, and that is not the case, because I'm really proud of her and who she is, and
Don't make me cry on this video.
I think she's very wise, and so I want to hear what she has to say, and I don't want that to get twisted that in any way she would ever talk over me or talks too much or bothers me, because I want to hear what she has to say more than anybody. So now she's
Now I'm crying in this video. It's been a while since I've cried in a video. And here we go. It's also so humid out here. I'm like
It is.
sweating.
Thank you guys for
My
watching.
earlobes are sweating.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for giving us this space. A couple of you have commented, so let me know in the comments if you want this on Spotify, like if you would listen to an audio version of it, because a bunch of people have commented or messaged me and said, hey, I like listening to this. Is it on Spotify? So if you don't want to just watch us and you want to listen to us, comment and let me know, and I'll try and get that worked out. I don't know what it looks like. Anyway, thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Comment.
Love you guys.
Any other things you want to talk about? And highlight Ocean Cove.
Insane. And follow Ocean Cove Thrift Co. on Instagram. It is our second income, and we would be really grateful if you would follow it. Use the code OCEAN15 to get 15% off.
Love you.
Love you. Or love them.
You.
Love you.
And them, I guess.
Yeah, love
Okay,
you guys
bye,
too.
guys.
Bye, guys. PacSun is having buy two, get one free jeans and pants, just so you guys know.